Hey, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Just give the rest some time to log in, and then we will start the session, right? Thanks for those who joined us early. So we will start momentarily in about maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, for those who just joined, just give a few more minutes for the rest to dial in. I see some of you are still coming in very quickly. So let's start around like 11:03 or 11:05, right? I'm still waiting for the rest to come in. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, I think we can start. For those who just joined, thank you for your attendance. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our Veeam webinar. This is a webinar that basically covers about Vault generative AI feature and capabilities. Okay, my name is Stanley. I am the senior systems engineer of Veeam. I look after, or I rather that I support partners and certain specific customers in the region. Right, so that's my name. Of course, welcome to the webinar again. Today we're going to cover a little bit on what's new on the rack, and then looking forward to some of the generative AI feature and capabilities that is found in our latest product. There are a couple of new additions that are put in as well, which I'll go through in a short while. Also, to give you a perspective of the today's webinar, if you have any questions that you want to ask regarding the content that I'm going to go through, please use your questions tab found on your console, and you can submit questions so that I can answer that at the end of the webinar. Okay. So that's done. Let's get to what today's webinar is all about. So, want to start, it is important to recognize that data is the lifeblood of every business, right? That includes your organization, your company, wherever you are, and it presents a very increasing complex challenges for organizations like yours to manage. One of the things is about data explosion. Data explodes year on year, and they sprawl across multiple clouds, countless endpoints, geographical regions, and locations. Veeam is able to track these two, things that we see from a complexity standpoint as well as the threat, right? So we can track these two emerging threats to data resilience. As you can see on your screen, on the left, we have seen a lot of growth in data explosion. Just last year alone, there's about 150 plus zettabytes of data and this is increasing every year, right? Sometimes doubling, sometimes tripling, depending on what kind of data are you protecting or putting in your environment. And infrastructure complexity is another concern that a lot of customers do go through, right? 92% of the customer that we poll our enterprise customers have a multi-cloud strategy, right? So they have probably on-prem and some on the cloud. Sometimes they try to mirror these two together without success, right? Because they may have situations where both the on-prem and the cloud operations might be different. Applications run differently as well. The third one is quite critical. I think is vendor lock-in. Now, to keep data resilient, you need the ability to move your data easily to new applications or platforms, especially as, in certain industries, they track very aggressive vendor price increases, sending budget spiraling. I think you know this because there were a lot of situations where customers feel that, hey, every 3 years since I'm going to do a hard tech refresh on some certain software and hardware, and this is something that I can't move because it is locked down to a specific vendor and so, right? And of course, the sheer volume of data and sophistication of your environment, this also attracts a lot of threat actors, especially for ransomware. This is a costly problem, especially when you consider that only 27% of the organizations who paid the ransom still couldn't recover the data, right? And if you are aware, search in ransomware complexity has now becoming more prevalent. And in fact, we do have a lot of customers are being hit by ransomware recently. All right, that's where we look at certain strategy that we can help customers to kind of mitigate, not totally, but at least to mitigate some and reduce the blast radius of any fallout from any ransomware attack and so forth. So Veeam Data Platform, the latest release contains quite a fair bit of updates. The latest release was released back in December 2024. One of the few areas that we included as part of our offering is, Entra ID backup and recovery. Now, why is it important? Because we want to make sure that you can back up and recover quickly, right? From a expectation of how you do that on your Active Directory or on-prem as well. It simplifies governance, risk, and compliance because there's certain things that you need to keep for long term, right? In case that you need to have any litigation hold or some compliance requirements that you need to restore a particular user or whatever it is that you need to restore, right? You can do it very quickly, and that's the promise of the embracing the Entra ID backup and recovery. The second pillar you can see there is innovation of our cyber resilience functionality. We provide the ability to do what we call proactive threat assessment even before you kind of run your daily backup or even post backup, right? And that also included tools that we in your capability as well. For example, indicators of compromise tool scanning, right? These are areas that we can detect what kind of threat actors basically deploy tools in your environment and kind of want to extract data or delete data or trying to figure out how information is being relayed in your environment, and we can detect those tools very easily, right? For example, suddenly there will be some tools that you hardly use in the environment, and we are able to flag it out and so that you can take proactive actions. Bit Threat Hunter is a new signature-based scanning engine, right? It uses a polyformic kind of heuristic algorithm to track any signatures that is prevalent in any condition, right? In fact, the Beam Threat Hunter works quite closely with some of the tools that I mentioned early on, right? If you got some anomaly and you want to use to make sure that you can scan just a particular anomaly, right? Their tools were able to help in terms of reducing the impact on that, and that provides also a second opinion. If you have a primary endpoint tools that you scan periodically and they give you a lot of false positives, right? The Veeam Threat Hunter should be able to provide the kind of second opinion to that. And of course, from an enterprise business, we also now offer secure cloud storage, which is a secure cloud storage from Veeam, managed by Veeam, that allows any Veeam backup replication customers to use that integrated into the storage. And this storage I'm going to talk about later. It's called Veeam Vault, right? It gives you the ability to do primary or secondary backup depending on your requirements. And if you are thinking of moving to Nutanix, we do have a complete Nutanix protection. There's quite a lot of features that we included as part of the Nutanix platform, right? And this has been ongoing since last year, where we increased incremental updates to our solution. More and more Nutanix, enhancements have been added into the latest product. And of course, talking about generative AI, language models, and so on, right, which is the buzzword in today's context. We also provide some intelligence into your backup infrastructure, right? And you can do that very quickly, not just from a monitoring standpoint, but from a reporting as well. I will cover a little bit more on the intelligence in both the Veeam Backup Replication Server and our monitoring and analysis tool. So today's theme is about evolving the enterprise. So we want to make sure that you gain instant access to not just from a backup perspective, but also to provide a platform or a cloud storage that is secure. Meaning secure means it has immutable built-in, it has encryption at rest, and the ability to back up to that secure cloud storage will always be encrypted. Right, we have a predictable price cloud object storage with Veeam Vault, because we don't want at the end of the month to get a bill shock. So there is a standard price that we can work with. All right, later on I'll talk about the features, and then of course if you're interested to look at our Veeam Vault, which is our secure cloud storage, right, you can contact your local reseller or even the Veeam folks as well. And it is completely integrated with our Veeam Backup Replication Server. And of course, right, Nutanix AHV environment, data protection with quite a fair bit of enhancements, like for example, application aware processing, inline threat detection, which we have that since version 12.1 during backup. And of course, Veeam One providing the deeper observability for Nutanix environment, right? Things what we can do right now, we also have the ability to look into the Nutanix so that you can do things like capacity planning, getting alerts on how the backup is performing, and using generative AI to, reporting mechanism to see how your insights into Nutanix backup and recovery is all about, right? And of course, powered by our generative AI, not just providing the ability for reporting, but you can keep you up to date on your backup and production infrastructure status in response to questions in a natural language. So it's very similar to how we do that in some of the third-party tools that you use frequently, right, on a daily basis, where you decide what you can find off the web and so on. But this is just particularly to your backup infrastructure. So I want to start with the first one, right? We talk about Entra ID, right? Why is it important to back up Microsoft Entra ID? So what is basically a Entra ID in perspective, right? So it is a identity and access management service, right? It kind of gives you a framework of policies, processes, and certain technology that you deploy to enable your organization to control and manage user systems and devices, right? This is purely on Microsoft Azure platform, okay? One important aspect is, of course, Microsoft 365, and I believe most of you are already using Microsoft 365 online. So you have Outlook, you have SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. The first thing that basically what you do is you kind of register your organization, and you add in the users, the applications that needs to be accessed. All these go through Entra ID. So it is a identity management. It provides authentication or authorization. It also enhances security and provides compliance needs for any customer who is using Entra ID. So the perception of why we need to back up Entra ID is very simple, right? the data that you kept in your, especially in your environment, the tenant that you own from a Microsoft Entra ID itself, the identity is your responsibility, right? So on the left, you see the perception, right? All Entra ID data is backed up. Your accounts can be hacked, right? Mistakes are easily corrected and reversed. And of course, you always think that Microsoft will handle compliance for me. But in reality, in fact, Microsoft do also provide information on their Microsoft Learn site to say that it is a responsibility of any organization who has Entra ID, subscribed to Entra ID, right? The Entra ID is not backed up, right? It's just there in case you want to change and all that is fine. But if you delete something and it gets into the recycle bin, right? And recycle bin from Microsoft perspective is that they will only keep the data for 30 days, and after 30 days, it will permanently be wiped out. And whatever that you try to recover, you won't be able to do that. And Entra ID is also vulnerable to cyber attacks. Later on, share with you some stats. And mistakes are not always easily identifiable or fixable because you may not know what's changed, right? What are the metadata that kind of compare? You need to compare to make sure you don't unnecessarily restore something that is not applicable, all right, in your organization. And as the organization itself, all right, organizations are responsible for any meeting your compliance goals. You want to make sure that you can get that information back as quickly as possible, right? So this is the stats I want to share. In terms of risk of any unprotected Entra ID security, that comes as a shock because you will probably see 600 million of the attacks Entra ID daily, and this figure actually comes from Microsoft as well, right? We don't come up with these figures. Microsoft provide that information because they do see something that they have experienced over time. And if you look back to 2021 or 2022, right, they had close to about 200 million attacks, right? And coming into 2025, right, looking at increasing awareness of how threat actors trying to bring down that situation, is going to be more, right? Now, not just a cyber attack, right? Anything can go wrong. For example, like human errors, misconfiguration of settings, and so forth. Accidental deletion, a very common thing that a lot of customers do face. Of course, outage as well, right? Because we want to make sure that even if you have a situation that something goes wrong and you want to restore, you can't do it because you are not able to access Entra ID should the Microsoft platform decided to go being in certain situation. And of course, as I mentioned, recycle bin will not save you because they only keep the whatever deleted information for 30 days. Other than that, you can't able to access any information at all. Now, there are certain reasons why you need to back up Entra ID. I'm going to put 6 of them. One, of course, is security threats. We want to make sure that you are protected against any cyber attacks. So requirements, not just a robust infrastructure defense against the cyber threats, but also to provide data protection against any unauthorized access and potential breaches if there are customers facing it. And you want to keep a copy of that so that you can, in terms of information being wiped out, you can restore very quickly. Right? Compliance is also a very critical area that any organization need to look at, right? Proper data management practices, not just from a technology standpoint, but also people as well as process, right? You want to make sure that you are compliant with any local, national, or global standards, especially for certain policies that in country or even your organization has a risk management aspect of it that you need to comply to. All right, number 3 is very prevalent. Accidental deletions and misconfiguration. Human error can lead to a lot of massive data loss and of course disruption as well, right? Because you accidentally delete some application and suddenly the application has no access to given access by the users, and you just say that, hey, something's wrong, because you need Entra ID to kind of process the application ability to do that. Recycle bin limitations, right? Reliance on building tools like the recycle bin is insufficient to complete any recovery process, right? As I said, you only have 30 days, right? Other than that, you can't actually do that. Efficient recovery comes with the need to do a good data protection plan, meaning that you need to minimize any downtime and ensuring a quick recovery process from any data loss incidents, right, that you need to maintain your business operation, right? Especially if for certain accounts that need to be registered and you restore them, or certain applications that accidentally be removed from the Entra ID aspect of it, you want to restore them very quickly. All right, that's where our fast recovery process comes into place. And of course, if we have both on-prem and the cloud, you need to navigate the complexities around the hybrid IT environment that requires some form of data protection for on-prem as well as on the cloud, right? That's where you need to include the Veeam Data Platform, or specifically the Veeam Backup and Replication Server. So talk about proactive protection for Entra ID, right? Veeam Backup for Entra ID, right? You can protect sign-in, audit, and provisioning logs so that you can use that for compliance and enhanced security. We do also provide a way of forensic investigations with a point-in-time copy of your data, yeah, your tenant information. Once it's back up, depending on what's the frequency of backup, right? You can do it maybe every 4 hours, every 6 hours, every 8 hours, because if you are in a industry that requires a lot of changes to your Entra, you want to keep the latest copy so that you can keep that in mind, right? And of course, from a backup perspective, pre-configuration and schedule backups at regular intervals to ensure that the data is constantly protected. That is the goal of the Entra ID backup from Veeam, right? And of course, once we know we get back up, we want to give you ability to do a effortless recovery. So all the data that you kept are stored in a certain region of your choice, depending on your built-in redundancy. So the one that is for Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft Entra ID, which is our backup as a service for customers who don't want to set up anything on-prem, you give it to us, right? We provide the infrastructure, we provide the storage so that you can keep your data there, and you just have to set your backup policy and so forth to keep for, let's say, certain times that you want to perform a backup and so on. And the restoration capabilities are done by the users themselves. So you will probably restore certain things over time, like for example, individual attributes, groups information, or even specific attributes that you think the user needs to be changed, right? And you make the wrong change and suddenly you realize that there's not a right change, but because the backup is already done, previously before the change happened, you can actually restore the metadata back attributes, right? This is something that a lot of process that can be done. And of course, if you want to quickly identify inconsistencies, all right, comparing what you back up, what you have currently in place, right, especially in terms of a quick view of what is being changed for a particular user or a particular application or even administrative groups, you can use the same application to do this. So everything's included from a Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft Entra ID. So this is the backup as a service. You don't have to worry about managing the storage costs. One price for everything is built in, right? You log into a web browser that's dedicated to the tenant, and then seamlessly you can create a first backup job, the convenience of as a service offering, right? Just like how we do that for our Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365. Right, later on I'll talk about these two, why is it important for these two to go together. A secure backup service, of course, this is Veeam powered cloud, right? It's managed for any customer, right? Offloading any maintenance, updates, and security fixes by the Veeam folks, so you don't have to do this because the all infrastructure is all managed and run by Veeam. So I talk about Microsoft Entra ID backup and data protection. Why is it important that you also need to back up Entra ID? So one of the things that I always tell a lot of customers is that Entra ID and Microsoft 365 goes together, right? Because Entra ID is a foundational element of Microsoft 365. they do have information that you will use to configure in your 365, right? Very, very important is you need to have a comprehensive backup strategy for both so that it enhance your security posture for your organization. If you use Microsoft 365 and of course Entra ID as well, all right? Some of the benefits that you see there, right? Data recovery, rapid recovery based on whatever that you deleted and so forth from Microsoft 365 environment, individual user, app registrations, and essential information from a recent backup that you can restore in the event of accidental deletion or malicious actions done by a threat actor. All right, we also provide benefits of compliance reinsurance. So you want to stay compliant with regulations by preserving a lot of things that you do in your environment, especially in terms of, providing backups for sensitive data, especially for users, some documents in Microsoft 365 and so on. And of course, if you need to adhere to a certain in-country, local, global or regional standards, all right, we will ensure that these standards are being looked after because we provide the capabilities to support your commitment to also those standards that you have, right? Simplified management, single platform to connect backups across both the applications for Microsoft 365 as well as Entra ID. So you don't have to relearn, right? It's just an intuitive web interface that gets you up and running. So talking about data protection for Entra ID, let's look at secure cloud storage made easy, right? We're going to introduce Veeam Data Vault. This is a SaaS offering, cloud secure cloud storage as an offering for any customers who wants to use a secure cloud storage that is managed and powered by Veeam, right? So what's included as part of this cloud storage? We have one price that inclusive of storage, write and read API call, data retrieval, and egress fees. So if you are thinking of putting a copy in the cloud because you may align through a 3-to-1 rule, right? One copy should be on the cloud, right? And you want to make sure that you can control costs, right? And this is the one factor that you should look at, right? It is a single cost, right, that you can use for your cloud, and you can grow your capacity if you think that first time you buy is very small and you can build your data. Remember the data explosion that I talked about, right? The more data you keep, of course, the more capacity you need, and you can add in more. As you add more, as you grow, we can do a simple code terming, right? So it is very scalable from growing the cloud storage. And it's built on Azure Blob Cool Tier for the highest restore performance, right? Anything you back up, we want to give you the ability to do a fast recovery, right? This is something that we have tested over time with a lot of customers, and they find that it's a good way, it's a good storage to handle this so that they can do not just periodic restore, they can do sometimes in a daily basis they may be performing a lot of simple restore because they may have situation depending on the operation of your environment. So security standpoint, right, because of cyber threats continue to increase, you want to make sure that you guard against your any of those threats for your backup data, and you want to make sure that the need to kind of secure backup data is very, very important. And that's why you can see there the environment is logical air gap from the production. All right, that means basically what you are trying to do is we keep the production data away, and then just flow appear of solely on a backup. And this infrastructure has no access by anybody, not even the Veeam Data Cloud team or the Veeam team. Right, at the back end, we provide a immutable service or immutable storage. So this is basically write once, read many state to stop any encryption, deletion, or modification to take place. Right, you always ensure that information cannot be altered, cannot be changed, or cannot be deleted. And I did mention earlier on about encryption. So the keys, the AES-256 encrypted backup data in flight and rest will be always to your tenant, and you do not have to cater for this because you only hold your process for the entire backup infrastructure for your data in your own defined tenant space. And the good thing about having to do this is only you hold the keys for the ES256-bit encrypted backup key, right? Information that is very vital to you, private to you, will only be given to a particular customer who use that particular Veeam Data Cloud Vault. You can buy it very easily through our multiple channels, right? You can go through our distributor, our resellers, right? Of course, that is the way that we transact all our process for any person who wants, or any organization who want to buy any Veeam Data Platform or Veeam Data Cloud services through them, right? And since it is a fully managed environment, right, Veeam takes care of the infrastructure. There's basically zero configuration. You just have to enter your information, and then you get the activation email, and just go in and configure very quickly, right? And then of course, the integration with the Veeam Data Platform or Veeam Backup Replication Server is something that we have. And of course, right, like any cloud service providers will provide up to 12 nines of durability on Azure Blob, meaning it can be data that is strapped across different disks or different rack, or even different data centers in the region, right? There are core data centers across the region, right? The only one right now is Singapore, but there is one in Australia, and of course one in Hong Kong, based on the Asia Pacific region. So this is an example of a Veeam Data Cloud Vault, storage made easy, starting price of 14 USD per terabyte per month, all inclusive of those things that I talk about, right? Includes the storage cost, includes the read and write API cost, egress, and of course the restore, depending on the version that you go with, right? So we provide two packaging options for customers, Foundation and Advanced, right? Both editions use Azure Blob Cold Storage, maintaining high performance for fast restore. Now, of course, the advanced edition supports zone redundant storage on Azure Blob, so that if any of the data standard goes down, the other two data standards up and running, it still support your vault information. And of course, the advanced edition allows unlimited restores without additional costs. Enhanced integration with Veeam Data Platform, especially with Veeam Backup and Replication, is only for current version 12.3.1, fully managed by Veeam, powered by Veeam, infrastructure is managed by Veeam. And of course, I did mention about Microsoft Azure Marketplace, which you can buy as well. If you buy through a preferred reseller or distributor, right? Of course, there are certain caveat and conditions that you need to adhere to. And of course, for certain countries outside of Asia Pac, you can buy the Veeam Vault subscription through a Veeam online store, right? This particular store is not available in Asia Pacific for the time being. Right, so these are the dashboards that you'll probably see. It shows you the capacity, it shows you how much you can actually bring, and so on and so forth. Of course, from a Veeam Data Cloud Vault, our Veeam One product, which is our monitoring and analytics platform, is able to provide information on what you look at from a Veeam Vault perspective, especially in terms of compliance, like workload protection, backup repository, backup billing, capacity planning, custom reporting, and so on. For day-to-day operations, you want to make sure that you do not run out of space. So we do capacity planning, as well as providing some space usage trends, so that you can track, on a daily basis, how much of data you are writing into your Veeam Data Cloud Vault. And you can drill down in terms of the detailed usage, depending on the workload that back up on the vault, and also protected workloads details as well. And of course, if there are any alarms, like for example, somebody is trying to do funny with your backup on the vault, you can have a dedicated real-time alarm that is provided in the observability platform to give you, alert information on that particular, process and so forth. All right, so one of the things that a lot of enterprises are trying to do is, of course, Nutanix adoption, right? So for those customers who are in the call, if you think that you have Nutanix, we have included quite a fair bit of, enhancements in Nutanix, right? So from a Prism Central integration, which is the main console that integrated into the Nutanix AHV environment. We provide category or tag support, right, for backup, source, and restore. So if those who are already using VMware, you know what our tags are. This is the ability to kind of, provide a streamline of all the things that is enhanced, so that you put in a particular workload that you do, just with the tags, we will back up the tags support information automatically without having to add into your specific backup job, right? And of course, Prism Central Image Management is also important. And currently, we also provide the ability to enhance just having a single appliance instance based on the node that you have. We used to have many multiple nodes in the same cluster, so that it provides the ability, but of course, that increase the requirements for not just the resources, but capacity and memory usage as well. Additional expanded backup customizations. For example, you can also adjust the block size, compression ratio, swap file exclusions in that aspect. And the integration with the Nutanix gas tools processing control is also expanded now in the current version. And for some reasons, some customers say, hey, instead of backing up from a production copy, I want to back up on a Nutanix replica, because you are using the hardware to replicate snapshots copy across to the probably another host or another cluster. We can actually back up from a secondary copy. Okay, so not just having to stop from backup customization, we also provide the ability for multiple network support, not just for the appliance as well as for the workers. Right, worker nodes are basically a data mover that allows us to transport or move data across via the worker node, so that we can perform things like backup and restore. And of course, you can set up dedicated backup networks. Right, we use only previously only have probably we can only use one specific network that we use to backup and restore, but of course there are some contention in doing this. And in the latest version, we also assist with complex networking configuration, so you can set things like preferred networks and so forth, right? Other key features like application aware processing, database log shipping. You can provide scripts for OS gas prefeeds or for store, right? For certain applications that we don't have the ability to read into it, right? Before even you back up the application, you may want to stop the process, back it up, use native tools to back it up, and then once you've done the backup, and then you start the process back again. And of course, we do have Veeam Explorers integration, so providing the same capability that we use for our Explorers are also happening in Nutanix. So some of the platforms that we use for supporting Explorers include Microsoft SQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, SharePoint, Active Directory, and of course, Exchange. Right, other features, security enhancements, right? So malware detection capabilities include inline entropy scan, which we have in version 12.1, gas indexing data scan as well as IOC tools detection, right? These are new tools that we put in 12.3, right? So in line with our BBR product, we also include that as part of Nutanix platform. And this just give you an example where you put in the gas file indexing malware detection, so that we can use information to look at whether the files have been changed, encrypted, or there is a ransomware node that's found in your in one of the folders or even the files. So other things that we kind of look at is the generative AI intelligence, right? So in the current version, we provide the ability to kind of do things differently. So we provide AI-powered inline detection already in 12.1, which is industry leading because it's all run in the same box, right? It's all run during backup, and so that you can be informed if your workloads are being, being compromised by any malware and so forth, right? And we also provide a new Veeam Intelligence support into our Veeam Backup Replication and V1 console. Later on, I'll share with you what is this. All right, it gets information, insights into your environment, and from a hosted Veeam AI service, they kind of communicate with each other. So you require certain information, things that you only delve into your data, so that whatever is built into that, right? You can find out about how your backup is performing, are you having issues with the backup, and so forth. Now, from a support standpoint, in the intelligent diagnostics, right? This is a machine learning, big data analytics capability to identify environmental issues which sometimes are being triggered by support cases. So whatever resolve or resolution that you have will always be put into a diagnostic information so that if any situation occurs, we can provide the infrastructure and add remediation so that this process can be done automatically. And this is something that we want to be in tune with what we are able to provide capabilities right now, right? And in this particular version, right, we are able to give you that capability as of the current version, which was released in December 2024. So Veeam AI Assistant, this is part of our Veeam Backup Replication Server, right? Some information about our Veeam AI Assistant. This was GA in 2003, December 2003, when version 12 just came out. It has answered more than 75,000 questions, right? For example, here is a customer may ask, hey, how do I actually import a new license file? How do I change my license file? This is the process or procedure that you can help. And based on statistics that we collected, it has helped more than 27,000 customers globally, right? Why is it important? Because we also want to know, right, what do most customers use the Veeam AI assistants for, right? So these are the information that we collected. And of course, there's no information regarding about the content, but just how many times you use that and how do you use the Veeam AI assistant. And currently, this is all in a Veeam Backup Replication Server. The other solution that we included, our Veeam Intelligence support settings, is in our Veeam One product, right? So in the Veeam Intelligence settings, you'll see that there's three options that you can choose, right? The disable option will always be hidden, will always be not by default. The by default is always be a basic mode, right? Which allows the AI feature to appear at the top of the bar. You will see that on your console, allowing administrators to ask questions about Veeam One or receive any AI generated, Gen AI generated answers based on the technical documentation with reference to your backup information, right? And of course, right, if you want to have the advanced mode, basically this allows inquire about your Veeam One documentation and of course including your own data protection status as well. So most of the time I would recommend that you choose advanced mode because it gives you a more powerful node so that you can use that information to correlate any events or anything that you want to look at in Veeam One. So Veeam Intelligence at your fingertips, right? So evaluation of Veeam AI Assistant, originally we included as part of version 12. It gives you a lot of Gen AI decision making using large language models, flexible levels of functionality, as well as real-time assistance with the product. For example, you may ask simple questions like, can you show me all the job history for the last 24 hours? So it provides a conceptually aware conversations, allow for organizations for deep data insights, and uses natural language as a task to prioritize certain issues. And of course, it gives you recommendation as well, right? If you need to. Excuse me. So using the Veeam Intelligence, some things to remember. Only users that are part of the Veeam One, which is our monitoring and analytics software, administrator group has access to Veeam Intelligence. For all other users who use the solution, the button will be hidden. Customers who have production licenses can only use those Veeam AI and intelligence AI options in both the Veeam Backup Replication Server as well as Veeam One. It is, however, limited to 5 questions per minute. So you have to wait for a full minute before you probably ask the next few questions, right? There are certain posts that you need to open up so that you can have access to our large pool of question bank or diagnostic information that the system can reference to but of course we will not be sending out customer data back to Veeam, right? Because we only transact whatever we have from a Veeam perspective, not so much on getting data to be uploaded into our cloud platform. You need a open connection to the aiveeam.com website. All right, this is automatically done by the product. You don't have to do that. Just ensure that port 443 is enabled, and of course, looking at protocols, users, HTTPS, and so forth. Excuse me. Right, Veeam 1 as well. Right, those information found in the documentation. So you turn on 443 as well as 1239. So for the Veeam server, again, you require an outbound connection. So these are important, right? And of course, inbound, you need to receive the information back from a Veeam server, right? That will need to also open 443 as well as 1239, right? And all this information is found in our technical help center, right? If you are not aware, there's a user guides that is available publicly for all users, so you can actually use that for your perspective. So looking at the amount of protection from data resilience, right? We have before proactive threat assessment, we are doing backup process with recovery, using some of the options there to perform a secure recovery. And all this is going through and reflected in our Veeam Threat Center, which comes as no cost to the customer. This is built into Veeam Backup Replication Advanced Edition, right? Because you need to have Veeam 1 in order to kind of work on that. But of course, if you look at those in green, you already have the secure tools that will protect your data, especially before backup, during backup, as well as from a recovery standpoint. As you go higher into the premium edition, we provided a proactive tool called Recon Scanner by Cofware, right? For those customers who already has Veeam Data Platform Premium Edition, you should be able to download that tool and use that for scanning, any threats existing in your environment, right? So it's a good tool to be used. All right, this will kind of help in terms of not just scanning for specific malware or tools or track that is being deployed by a tractor, but providing the capabilities to give you a where are you being exposed to in terms of threats coming from external as well as internal. So just give you an overview of what are the platforms that is supported in terms of the packaging. Right, I'm not going through everything. If you need more information to run this through, please refer to your respective resellers or the distributors, or you can actually, drop a note to our Veeam folks, which you can do a chat, right? They will be able to tell you more about these packaging options. And of course, right, coming from the foundation to premium package, we have all the cyber resilience platform that we can protect, right? As long as those mandatory protection is in place for providing good backup data protection and recovery. So before we end, I just want to give you a perspective that in 2024 we were placed very high on our strategy category, right? This is a yearly recognition of our data resilience solutions. So Veeam has been named as a leader in the Forrester Wave data resilience solutions in Q4 2024. So the stats, you see that we are #1 in market share worldwide, not just from a backup data protection, but also Microsoft 365 and so forth. We have close to about 550,000 customers worldwide and counting, right? That also includes customers in this call. And of course, 74% of the global 2,000 customers are Veeam customers, right? If you want to get the report, just scan the QR code here, right? Or you can check it out in our veeam.com website to get more information. And last but not least, before I end this webinar, we just recently released a ransomware trends and proactive strategy report, right? We do this every year based on 1,002 to 2,000 customers, right? This is done independently by a third-party organization. So this report in summary, it tells you that 52% of organization reported major improvements or overhaul in IT ops and security team communication, because trending in terms of cyber resilience is very important, right? 20% of organizations are now confident drop in their ransomware preparedness post attack. So we have certain programs that we can work with our customers, right? So before that it was pretty high, it was like 40-50%, right? They don't have confidence in terms of providing the the ability to provide good posture for ransomware attack. And of course, 30% organization poll have a predefined chain of command for their incident response, which is very important, right? And always I tell customers always to practice whatever they need to come out from incident response. And you should get ready in terms of providing actionable steps for data resilience, secure recovery, as well as response, right? You can use the QR code there to get the report, right? If you need to know more, please contact the Veeam folks by going to the veeam.com website, right? All right. This is the end of my webinar today. If you have any questions, you can post it in the questions box, right? I should be able to give you a perspective of what you are asking, right? Yeah, so I think one of the few questions that always come up very regularly is, are those features already available right now in our Veeam Data Platform offering? Yes, right. In fact, since version 12.1, we kind of increased our security offerings for protecting your data, right? In those versions that you see right now. And if you are not sure what we have, again, I kind of ask you, get in touch with our Veeam team. All right, we should give you some expert and also providing a good demo on some of the capabilities I just talked about, like for example, the Veeam intelligence, the inline scanning, secure restore, and so forth. Right? We do have people on the ground that will be able to help you. Yes, Veeam Data Cloud Vault capacity is based on how much you need, right? Minimum is 5 terabyte if you buy from Veeam, right? So that's the starting capacity, and then of course you can increase it. And if you need to have some form of capacity requirements, do work it out with our Veeam resellers and our Veeam team, right? More than 5 terabyte. For example, you may be needing 30-60 terabyte as a capacity to hold your backups. Yeah, please work with them. Okay. Yeah, I only have these 2 questions. Any more question? I'll just wait for a while if you have any questions. Okay, if there's no other question, I will end this webinar. Thank you again for your attendance, and hope to see you in the next webinar by Veeam. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead. See you. Bye-bye.